Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm kind of famous. I'm Jerry Springer. And Jaffe is no host. He'd be lucky to be in my audience, let alone on my show. Well, maybe he's crazy enough to be on my show. I take that back. And that's not a good thing.
This is my best kind of show notes. We didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Like Scooby-Doo.
Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane!
did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, I might be insane, but at least I'm not as insane as the market right now. Things are not great. Things are confusing. Things are troubling, maybe. But we keep on soldiering on. We keep on trucking. We keep on moving. We don't really have a choice, do we? I actually think we don't have a choice, but we make our choices, and we live with our choices. And my choice is to be with you. My choice is to keep innovating. So hello, everybody. My name is Joseph Jaffe. I am your host. The host of Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous. And today we're going to be doing something slightly different. Today we're going to be talking about, crypto winter, what to do, how to do it, how to weather the storm, how to move through it, how to adjust, how to be in the flow, Yeah, that we're going to talk about that. That's going to be my soliloquy, which we'll get to in a moment. But I want to hear how you guys are doing, how you're weathering the storm, how you're making it through, and how you're innovating. Remember, necessity is the mother of invention. And so often we need to adapt, we need to adjust. And speaking of which, you probably know that I'm looking to launch a new initiative called the Alpha Collective. You can visit alphacollective.xyz to sign up for email updates, minting alerts, and you can win a membership pass worth 1 ETH. Actually, it might be worth more than 1 ETH. And this is kind of my point, because things are changing all the time as we look to adapt and as we look to adjust. Now, one of the things about the Alpha Collective is there will be Alpha Talks, which are 52 Alpha Talks delivered by 52 Alpha Talk speakers over 52 consecutive weeks. That is unprecedented. It is unprecedented in terms of this amount of thought leadership that is curated, that is focused, and it isn't just about the talks, which are 20 minutes, or the Q&A, the curated fireside, which is between myself and my Alpha Talk speaker. But then there's a 30-minute town hall where members can really pick the brains and have a live conversation with them about their talk, about what's on their mind, etc. But today I'm going to release a little bit of alpha on alpha, which is a new module which is being called Alpha Share. Now, the Alpha Share is the opposite of the Alpha Talk. It's really, if the Alpha Talk is about inspiration and thought leadership and provocation and keynotes, this is the opposite. This is what I would call lessons learned at the rock face of the metaverse. Maybe Maybe it would be, I don't know, at the rock face of the Roblox or something like that. But the idea is to bring in the practitioner, not the pundit, not the futurist, and they have a place. It's called the Alpha Talk, but the Alpha Share is designed for them to come in and share what went right, what went wrong, what they would, if they could do it all over again, what they would do differently, how they might move forward. And you know what we've really learned in so many of these cases is maybe the analogy is what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Certainly that applies, right? What doesn't work today, first of all, it could work tomorrow. But the other point is it informs us, it allows us to be smarter about what we do moving forward. And that is essentially, maybe you could call it the school of hard knocks, but it's more than that. It's actually about recognizing that what, we don't grow, we don't evolve if we are trapped in same shit, different day, right? If we aren't able to break out of our silos and out of the box sometimes that we play in. And so today, why do I even bring this up? Well, I bring this up because the topic of today is bringing Joe Pulizzi back into studio and talking about the never-ending ticket, something that he introduced for CEX, for the Creator Economy Expo, which I went to, where I did 2 live shows from. I went to a rally creative day there, and I was intrigued. I was intrigued about the ticket. It didn't sell out. It didn't even come close to selling out. There may be reasons why and why not, but I'm a believer in the ticket. I'm a believer. I'm a Justin believer. I'm a believer in the actual use case. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the fact that this never-ending ticket, Joe Pulizzi is a pioneer. It can apply to any membership-based purchase, any event, especially in a series or one that repeats itself annually. It can apply certainly to B2B, but it can also equally apply to B2C, like literally a never-ending plane ticket, or restaurants, being able to pop in to your favorite restaurant once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year for the rest of your life. And we'll talk about what makes this special in a Web3 world. So can you imagine being able to get a membership pass to the Alpha Collective and getting 52 of these keynotes? Pulizzi will give one of them, but also 52 of these how I made these of being able to unpack, to deconstruct, to dissect, and then to kind of build it up all over again. And so we're going to get into that never-ending ticket, but I'm still going to give you a soliloquy. I did it even differently because I don't even have any slides today. So I just plugged this image into my browser. And, this is all about flow and this idea of being in the flow. Let me find you. Yeah, I think that's good flow music, don't you? So I'm in the flow at the Mo. I'm completely in the zone. I am moving like the river, like the stream, and nothing can stop me. And one of the things when you think about being in the flow is that you know where you go, or you know where you're going in the flow, because my name's Joe. I know where I'm going. And today, for example, in my daily coffee that I do in the Gary Club and Discord, and then via a few DMs, and then in an accelerator coaching program, they were coming thick and fast. Ideas, suggestions, do this, don't do this, you might want to do this. And I was able to, almost like it was very Tai Chi. I was able to immediately know when to bob and when to weave, when to say, yep, got it, gonna do it, not even gonna think about it twice, that's right, or that's interesting, I'm not going to do it, or I might do something differently because I was in the flow. I was able to immediately, like a Babel fish, like a cipher, like a key, be able to translate and understand how one person who cares about me and my outcome, coming from a good place, not personal, but they were coming and they aren't me. They can't be me, and they can only get so far. Like a Sherpa might say, right? We can only take you so far, but the rest is up to you. And so I was able to then be able to determine very, very quickly. I think I must have innovated on Alpha Collective more in the space of a few hours than perhaps in the last few weeks or even few months. And that's what happens, I think, when you're in the flow, when you are innovating. It is a glorious time. It's a glorious time because you know that you are improving. You know that you are moving, and you know that you are moving forward. And at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? We have to keep moving, and we have to make sure that we are moving forward, because if we are standing still, we're going backwards. We are stagnating, and not only will the world catch up with us, but we might actually find ourselves being left behind. And so today, I'm going to segue into this idea of the never-ending ticket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive, and if you will stay with me, we will go into NFTs. And I'm not connecting my wallet because I'm not going to buy it right now. I might at the end of this episode. So here is the never-ending ticket, and I'm going to read this to you. The never-ending ticket is a set of 100 forever tickets for CX. Benefits include complimentary access to all Creator Economy Expo events this year. Okay, all of them. So there may be more, we're not sure, but there is at least one. I bought my ticket, by the way. I bought a regular ticket. I forget how much it cost, $495 maybe, $500. It didn't matter because I was supporting my friend, and I wanted to be there. Pre-event roundtable exclusive at CX in-person events. Invitation to the VIP speaker party. Okay, so event swag. Complimentary access to all paid training courses provided by the Tilt, which is Joe's initiative. Exclusive quarterly Tilt coin drops for NET holders, and private Discord for NET holders. There have been 51 that have been minted right now, and the pricing worked as follows. First 50 were priced at 0.75. So super sorry, by the way, if you were thinking of buying one today, because it's now moved up to 1 ETH, and then the final will be sold for 1.25 ETH. And I believe that these prices are dynamic prices. I don't want to check the price of ETH. It makes me depressed, but I think it's round about $2,100. And so if I paid $500 for my one ticket, right, now for $1,500, well, I've missed out on that, but for $1,500, I now have access to a whole bunch of events in the future. So I'm going to let that sit for a while. And that is our benchmark. By the way, Tom Morris says, when you're in the flow, your artificial barriers are down and you're wide open to the magic. It's true. It's true because magic is all around us, right? Magic is in nature. People say, where is God? God is in nature, right? I mean, it depends whether your eyes are open and your ears are open as well. Thank you for mentioning that, Tom. Well, how do we determine whether this was valuable or not? Well, one person that actually bought the never-ending ticket was Brian Piper. And it just so happens that Brian Piper is hiding out in the green room. Brian, are you hiding out in the green room because you are a VIP holder? Do you have 50 Jaffe coin at the moment, or did you get a backdoor pass?
I am an NET holder, so that's
Any
how I got in. And I hold Jaffe coin.
All right. So if you are a Jaffe coin holder and you have the VIP role, you can actually come out and hang out in the green room and surprise me like Brian did. But this was deliberate and planned. Brian, you bought one of these NETs. And by the way, here's Grace. Grace says, "Hey, I know those faces. I
Grace.
met Grace at CX as well. Grace, I'm so glad you're here." All right. So, Mr. Brian Piper, as not to be confused with Mrs. Piper, let's go to CEX now and let's look at these benefits. First of all, let me ask you the question: why did you buy it?
Well, I'm a big fan of Joe. I've been to Content Marketing World for years, and I knew that what he was building with the Tilt was, going to have a lot of value. It was going to provide all sorts of benefits. And, I love the NFT space as far as utility that's offered. So I immediately looked at this and I knew that I was going to be going to this conference for years and getting lots of benefits. So getting the additional benefits of being able to meet the speakers and interact with the other NET holders and get exclusive networking opportunities, I knew it was going to be well worth it.
All right. So, do you remember? We know that you paid 0.75 for it, but ETH was higher. So, I assume you paid probably maybe about $2,000, a little bit more.
I think it was a little bit more than that when I got into it. I bought the tickets right after he launched them. So I think it was somewhere a little high of the $3,000 range.
All right. Wow. So you paid $3,000 for it. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. One, let's talk about risk. How much perceived risk was there in buying this ticket?
Well, I mean, obviously, the biggest risk was that he would only do it for 1 year, and that would be the only value I would get out of it. But I know Joe. I saw what he did with Content Marketing World and the way he built that, and the value that I got out of going to that every year. So I was like, I consider the fact that even if this only lasted 1 year, the access that I would get to the speakers, to the networking, to the other NET holders, just the opportunities for collaboration would make it worth it. So there was a little bit of risk involved, but I had faith in Joe.
But also, are creators going away?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Is Joe going away?
No.
No, he's not. And is CX going away? That was the question mark. But you astutely saw value. And by the way, for anyone looking to the purpose of of Alpha Share, the purpose of these sessions is not to promote Joe Pulizzi. God knows he doesn't need any more promotion, but it's really to serve. And that's why I'm also grateful to him, because in him agreeing to kind of share this case study, so to speak, it's providing value to other people that might want to do this in the future. Hell, I might even implement a never-ending ticket to Alpha Collective at some point, because I'm looking at it and thinking, what are the benefits? And already you've just mentioned one of them, which is you've got to go into this and believe in your heart of hearts that even if this thing doesn't repeat itself ever again, that you got your money's worth. So now let me ask you the question. If CX never happened again, did you get your money's worth?
Absolutely. And, I got a bonus this year because my wife came out with me just to take a few days of vacation. And, the day before the event started, she went out with me and a few other people that were going to the event. And just from the conversations there, she decided that she needed to stay for this conference. She called her boss right up and said, there's a lot of value here. There's a lot of opportunities here for us. And as an NET holder this year, they gave the NET holders a free ticket to give out to someone. So I was able to give my wife a free ticket. So right there, that, increased the value of my NET to me. And we both got so much out of the event. It was well worth it. Even if she hadn't been able to go, even if there wasn't a CEX next year, it's definitely worth the cost of the ticket.
Now that wasn't mentioned in the benefits, right? That you would get an extra ticket.
It was not. I think they added that on at the before the conference this year.
And is it going to apply moving forward to future events, a second ticket?
I don't know about that, but that's the beautiful thing about this sort of ticket is they can add value and add utility. And in the Discord channel, we have opportunities. We have a special channel just for NET holders where we can go in and we can make recommendations on things that we would like to have, benefits that would be useful to us, which several of which have been implemented, and we've all seen the benefit from it.
Now, in many respects, as you know, with me launching Alpha Collective, I'm also learning from this format and this formula, and also with my show, with this show, Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous. The super fan role at 100 coin allows my super fans to feel. They should already feel that they're part of the show. You should feel like you're part of the show. You're a regular. You know that when you comment, you're going to get validated and acknowledged. But at the same time, you can actually say, this is my show. I want my MTV. I want my CX. I want my Not Famous. That's a cool feeling to know that you're not just a passive, disconnected viewer or attendee, that you actually can apply yourself and your suggestions into the formation and the future, the evolution of the event.
Absolutely. That's really the difference between, audience and community. I mean, community, we are involved, we are ingrained, we are part of, we are contributors of, we have a value and ownership of, the whatever experience that we're part of.
So you said a few things that I think are amazing. One is you're gushing about it, which I'll come back to in a moment. Two is you said even if this event were never to repeat itself again, you got your money's worth at $3,000, no less. So you paid more than what people would have been paying yesterday or a week before. And even with that, and the recognition that they may never, that even if there wasn't, I mean, that you can't hope for more than that. But of course, the other thing that is so ridiculous about, and this is about Web3, right? This is not about an event. It's not about CX. It's not about me. It's not about you, Brian. It's not about Joe, right? Is the secondary market that says you can sell this at any time and get your money back, make a profit. Are you going to sell it anytime soon?
Absolutely not.
So you're a hodler.
Yes, definitely.
So maybe in this down market, in crypto winter, what prevails and what stands the test of time is value and utility.
Absolutely. I mean, you have ownership. You're investing your money to get to be part of the community, and the value that I get out of this community and from the connections that I made at the event, I couldn't put a price on it.
And we met for the first time, which is great. Now you've already been on my show twice. You're catching up to Joe, who's going to be on my show for the third time. So who's going to get to the smoking jacket sooner? I don't know. Your SNL 5-time club. Before we bring Joe on, let's take advantage of him being muted and silenced, and let's do like a critique on this NET. And then when he comes on, we'll also go through some of the unique benefits and the way that he went to market. For me, as I said, it didn't sell out initially, and strategically, I didn't think it would. But I said to him very early on, this thing is going to sell out. It's just a matter of time. And that's why I want to share it and talk about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the warts. The linchpin here is the product is and as the hero, right? Once you have one product under your belt, again, everybody knows brand Pulizzi, brand Content Inc., brand Orange, brand Creator. All of that is done. But what about CEX? And now with one, it's not done with all the content, etc. The product now takes over, combined with a few other things. So I thought I would come up with my top 5 in terms of what I like about this. And remember, this is not just about this version or application of an NET. It is about NETs in general, right? It is the NET use case for those of you that are just joining at this moment. You can use an NET. I might use an NET for Alpha Collective. You can use an NET for any membership-based purchase, any event, quite frankly, anything that requires a damn ticket, or a butt in seats, like Broadway, like an airline, like airline travel. The possibilities are never ending. See what I just did there? All right. So this is what I like about it. And Brian, you get to comment with me, and then Joe can agree or disagree. Number one, surprise and delight. Not an under promise and over deliver, but promising and then over delivering. That's my new thing. Don't under promise, because that implies you held something back. Promise and then over deliver. The surprise and delight. You got an extra ticket. You were able to bring your wife along. This to me is a huge thing about the NET that says, and this we learned from Gary as well, right? Which is focus on what you can deliver on 100% today, and then add some extra stuff. And with all of these, if you want to jump in and add commentary, you can. You don't have to. All right, number two, superfans. This is perfect for superfans. And if they aren't superfans already, you're going to create superfans out of them. You're going to upgrade them because they feel special and validated. They either bought it because they buy into you and love you, or the way that you make them feel, they will be with you for life, not just because they have a never-ending ticket. Would you agree with that, Mr. Piper?
Absolutely. And I think one of the brilliant things that Joe did was allowing his NET holders to get up and introduce some of the keynote speakers and introduce some of the presentations, because then they got to get up in front of the crowd and tell them how important those tickets were, how valuable they were to them, and the rewards that they were already seeing from them.
Absolutely. And in fact, if we go back and we look at these, the way he did it was like a good PFP collection is he actually created all these various rares and ultimate one of ones and super rares, etc. We can ask him when he comes on in a moment whether he would do things differently with this, whether there's a way to, do what I would call a Southwest, right? Which is everybody gets the nuts. And treat, it's like I don't discriminate. I hate everyone equally. That's the Southwest approach. But we'll come back to that in a moment, because I think there was something very powerful about those people who got on stage. Number three, customer testimonials. I don't think Joe expected them to gush the way that they did. But boy, oh boy, like I've said this in many presentations, the most influential salesperson is your customer, and the most persuasive spokesperson is your employee. And they got on stage and they were there. They could promote themselves. They could introduce the speaker, but they just said, man, I love being an NET holder. You didn't introduce anyone, did you? Because you didn't get like a super rare or an ultra rare.
I did not, but I got to run the roundtable discussion for the NET holders at the beginning of the conference. So he was giving other select people who were active in his Discord other opportunities to, interface with people at a different level.
Number four, flexible and malleable, the pivot, the ability to add a guest pass, the ability to, something Joe did, I think very, it's sales 101 and was pretty smart, is he said, by the way, if you're at the conference, captive audience, people that are enjoying themselves, and you want to upgrade to an NET, we'll take the price that you paid for this ticket and roll it into the new ticket, into the NET. And so you have essentially $500, $600, $700, $800 off that purchase price. So I think the thing about this Web3 space is we are kind of making up as we go along. There is a lot of adversity and obstacles like what we've experienced over the last few weeks. You've got to create something that can move and breathe and flex and be flexible. And then number five, last but not least, the secondary market. The risk that we spoke about is kind of built in when you know you can sell it. And I think strategically for anyone looking to do this, you've got to come into this, thinking if I only deliver one time would it have been enough? In fact, I'm thinking of it now with the Alpha Collective, from the window when people start buying passes to when I essentially open up the doors. I want to already deliver more value in that holding window than, to justify the pass in of itself. So it's one way to kind of keep delivering value to the point where they have no choice but to say, I would sell my child before I would sell this NET. So I would say any final words, but have you ever been sandwiched between two Joes?
No, I have not.
Well, you are about to be. Let's put Piper in the middle.
Oh, good.
Welcome, 3-time guest Joe Pulizzi.
It's very interesting hearing you both talk about this, especially like I'm not here and I'm like watching you both talk about it in real time. Thank you. No,
I kept you in the back for just an extra few moments just to make it excruciating.
No, and I had to double check. I was like, okay, Brian owns number 8. I just had to double check and make sure which never-ending ticket Brian had. By the way, Brian was so helpful with this whole process, and I caught the part about basically the community is building this as we go. So part of the community, part of the pivoting. I've learned a lot. We could talk about all this stuff, but boy, this is more than super fans. I mean, we are really constructing this thing together as a team. I think Brian feels that way. We have a number of other community members that do. It was very surprising to me, Joseph, that this has happened. I've been building media companies for 20 years, but this is the first experience I've had with building a community like this. And there's nothing like it, to be honest.
If I was to say to you, and I already know the answer to the question, but if I was to say to you, would you have, or maybe you will surprise me, but I don't think you will. If you had sold your NETs out overnight versus where you are right now, would you have preferred that scenario to where you are today?
Boy, a lot of things would have been different. Brian knows some of these things, which I can't talk about. But first of all, I had to market completely different for the event because I thought it would be easier to sell tickets for this event running into COVID. Absolutely was not. It was a challenge. I had to work. I mean, all the pivoting, all the extra bonuses, the over delivery, maybe none of that happens. Maybe we just go forward and we're like, great, we've got an event. I don't think we build the relationships because as people like Brian Piper, like Mark Hicks, like Jim McLeod, like Brian Stout, they all got involved. Sarah, who just signed up from Sweden, like right before the event, they've been giving feedback to me. And I've been honest. I'm like, what can I do to make this thing better? This is for you. You're part of this thing. And I really believe that. I mean, right now we have 51 owners of these never-ending tickets, and they're my VIP community. And I'm counting on them for feedback, and they're counting on me to keep my promise. I remember, I don't know if you were there, Brian, but Sarah came up to me. This was the night after the conference was over, and she said something about, hey, I bought a never-ending ticket because I believe in you, and I believe that whatever happens with CEX or Creator Economy Expo, or whatever, you're going to make good on your promise. And it was a lot of pressure. I'm like, oh, I better start getting going here. But as you have up there, that's we sort of put this together. We added the quarterly tilt coin drop. I think that's a nice touch. Everyone ended up getting event swag. I'm happy to go through what I would do differently, but I know it is a completely different product. I would like to say it would have been great to sell out. I actually thought that we would, but maybe it was, I know why we didn't in hindsight. Number one reason was we had most people that didn't have any digital wallets, or they didn't have a good way to move Ethereum over and get that wallet going. And we didn't have a credit card functionality for them to sign up. And I think that if we had that would have probably told a different story, but maybe it's for the best.
Yeah. And look, what I've learned going through these experiences myself now is that there are ways that you can still cut corners if you need to for now, which is, PayPal or Stripe or pay via credit card. And then I'll go ahead and still do it. we still have to be smart enough. We can't be so self-righteous or so, holier than thou or purist, I should say, to be able to say this is the only way to do it. But we're still ultimately moving towards this idea of being able to pay via wallet. But I can tell you, Joe, and I have no doubt in my mind, you wouldn't have innovated the way that you did if you just sold out. It would have just been, we would not be having this discussion here today, because I really become vested in the never-ending ticket. And I also think that now that the product is out there, it speaks for itself. You got more value on stage from these people gushing about you. I was blown away. I was like, how much are you paying them? And can I pay them the same amount to push Alpha Collective? Because I need these people selling my membership passes. And they weren't. And that's, of course, what you and I know about content strategy, which is when it's just natural, organic, and authentic. It's just get out the way and just, and let the floodgates open.
Well, and Brian was very helpful, because I forgot what happened at the conference, but I think somebody was talking about, maybe it was after Jeremiah was talking about Web3 and investment versus just a ticket. And you texted me right before I was going to go up and I think send everyone to break. And you said, Joe, you need to remind everyone that if they had a never ending ticket, they wouldn't be just losing their fee to the event, that they could have this ongoing and put it towards something long term. And I read your text verbatim on the stage, and we ended up to your point, Joseph, about having a product. I mean, it makes a big difference. We sold 21 never ending tickets at the event. We're actually still in process. We're getting the invoices in, we're taking them, I'm basically minting them for them and transferring them over to the wallet. That was my mistake. And Brian and Mark Hicks and a number of other people basically, because I said, we have to be pure about this. I've got to teach them to get the wallet and to learn how to fund it and to go mint it and do it themselves so they can learn. We're a learning community. And then Brian's telling me, no, you just have to let them get it any way they can. Like how they have to do it by credit card, or you have to help set up the wallet for them. Doesn't matter. Then they can learn. They have to take that step first. And that's what I didn't know firsthand. And if I would have had that mentality coming into it, like whatever it takes for the customer to have this experience, we are going to make it happen. Now, I'm doing, I've got all kinds of things up. We're doing an invoice over here. I'm helping somebody set up a wallet over here. We're doing payments. We're doing all kinds of stuff so we can help somebody have this never ending ticket experience, because my goal is to get these minted out or sold out so that there's more value for people like Brian. So I've got 49 of these to go. I think that we can do this in the next 3 months. That's my goal, to set that up. And it's just takes time. It takes honestly about 5 or 6 days for each person when they make the decision, and then we go through the invoice and they set up the wallet and then we transfer. You wouldn't think it would take that long, because I'm like, hey, just go to the minting page, log in with your MetaMask wallet and go ahead and mint it. It's not that easy. And I learned all kinds of people have problems actually funding. Actually getting ETH into their wallet is a whole other issue that I never knew was such a challenge. So
it can be, and yet there's also this kind of crazy thing about being able to do exactly what you said, which is, it's only 0.75 ETH. There's something about the number when psychologically, when you see 0.3 or 0.05 or point whatever, you're like, it's only 0.08. You have no idea what that even means. There's a perceived difference. It's actually a dangerous difference. It's like, 0.08, I'll take 5. And then the next thing you know is like, my wife comes home and goes, why is there $48,000 off our credit card? I go, because I bought 5 at point. Oh crap,
Yeah, exactly.
But I do think that there is something there. It's not ready. It's not even close to ready. It's at 0.1% completion, about this idea of ease of use and making it easy to buy. It is what Amazon calls one-click buying. And we are close to, we could be close to it, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I actually thought, I had a number of people tell me, so let's say, Brian, you remember this better than I do, but we were into it a couple weeks and I think we had 5 or 6 sold. And I'm really down to the dumps. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And a number of people said, Joe, you're charging too much. This is ridiculous. 0.75 ETH at the time was about $3,000. And so maybe we were charging too much. I don't know. But I thought that was the big problem. I'm like, oh, we just should have something really low to get people in. And then here I learn that it wasn't a money issue. It was all the other steps that got there. And I learned that firsthand at Creator Economy Expo, just talking to people. And they're like, oh, I'd have bought one earlier, but I couldn't figure the whole thing out. It's like, it wasn't a money issue. So now I'm just working through now it's interesting because I mean, we moved up to the 1 ETH level, but right now, as we talk, I think ETH is like $1,900 or $2,000. So it's much cheaper than it's ever been. So it seems the further we go, the cheaper these things become. But I would have made a lot of changes. For example, you talked about the uniqueness, the rarity features. I'd have thrown all those out the window. Those were not important. I would have had, to me, I think that if we just would have had everyone gets the same thing, I don't think it would have made a big deal. Although I do know we have the rarest one, which is the Content Entrepreneur one at the top, which hasn't been minted yet. And I know some people who are talking at the conference about that one. So that's where we do a co-creation. I work on a project with somebody on that one. So somebody that hasn't been minted yet, we'll see where that goes. But I would have more like Proof Collective or Pool Suite, where they just have the same image. I think we probably could have pulled that off and didn't have to have the rare features. And I could have rewarded somebody like Brian, who's really active in our community, to say, okay, you get up and do the intro. And you get up and you lead the round.
You kind of did, though. I mean, you kind of did with the extra ticket. Yeah. Brian, I'm gonna do the equivalent of tucking you back into the green room for a second. We might bring you back at the end. But I just want to say thank you for sharing I mean, this is, as I said, this is a real customer sharing their real thoughts about a real program. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with this concept of alpha share, which is get away from the theory and the postulation and all the hot air, and talk about what works and what doesn't work, and what could work and what might work. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for everything that you did at CEX, Joe. It was a fantastic event, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Well, and I talk to you every day anyways, so
exactly.
which happens. I talk to everybody every day now. We're like friends.
We are.
Who knew that was going to happen?
Are you friends, or are you friends? FRENS?
Oh, geez, don't get me started with that. I can't even do GM. I just seem way too old.
Well, I'm going to say GB, which is goodbye, Brian Piper. All right, so it's you and me back, and I think you spoke to some of the things earlier, but I jotted this down as well, which is maybe it's not an NET, but it's an NETE, which is a never-ending ticket experience. You spoke about the NET experience, and it was funny. Like we discussed and debated this with Gary Henderson in coffee one morning at 5 a.m. And he came up with this idea that I wanted to actually share with you today, which certainly you can even do. He called it this idea of a VIP room, of a room that all NET holders would get to go to and be a part of, where there would be food, catering, drinks, I guess alcoholic and non-alcoholic coffee. Non-alcoholic coffee? What is that? That's called coffee. I meant non-alcoholic drinks, coffee, obviously charging spaces. I'm embellishing on the idea now as well. Possibly a place to store your luggage, but more importantly, big screens where you could actually watch the event from a comfortable environment. So in a way, you didn't even need to be in the main conference hall, or depending on how big the event eventually gets, you'd be in a very small, intimate environment, and you would know that this was your permanent space. You could discuss the keynotes, you could network, etc. But the way that he discussed it was this idea that the event itself, this VIP area, right, would be enough, so much so that that people wouldn't even want to or need to come to another event and say, I got my money's worth. And that's what Brian and I were discussing at the beginning. And that's where you nailed it, whether you plan to or not, is that you can't launch an NET type of a product based on the future. The future is the hook, but the hold is the ability to say, even if I never use this again, I got my money's worth. And so I just wanted to share that VIP idea. I'm sure you've had many suggestions have come through.
Yeah, oh yeah, I that's an interesting idea. We tried to do some of that. So the NET holders were invited to the speaker party, which I thought was a pretty good bonus. Unlimited drinks, alcoholic and not alcoholic at that event. Got to talk to all the
coffee.
speakers. Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was great. I wouldn't do it as a totally. I mean, we could have a speaker room, but my idea for the VIP never ending ticket experience is to do it the day before. They would have maybe their own exclusive workshop. We already did that. We had a roundtable discussion with all of them so they could get to know each other. I probably would add in a happy hour just for those people to network and get to know each other. But then during the event, I want them at the event. I want them talking to other regular ticket holders. Because they're teachers as well. I mean, these are the best of our community that have put the faith in this whole little idea to make happen. And I don't want to say, oh, go to this room during the event. We can have all sorts of VIP experiences for them before the event and after the event. But during the event, I want them to be around. I want them to be involved in it. Like you saw, I want them to introduce keynotes. I want them to moderate sessions. Probably a number of them will speak next year. So that's what I want to see happen. And not that idea from Gary is wrong at all. I would just move it to a pre or post experience.
Well, I mean, already as I said, there's so much innovation happening around. And, what do they say? Innovation happens at the edges sometimes. And that's what's happening here. Let me ask you a few other questions,
Sure,
just in the spirit of being candid about it. Brian, who's a happy customer, he paid $3,000 for his pass. Now there are people, he just came and sat back at his desk. I was hoping he wouldn't hear this part. What happens now to the people that are coming in and in a way they're laggards? They're coming in at 0.75 or even 1 ETH, and they're paying less than your first customer, your early adopter, who came in. I mean, it is the way of it's just the nature of the beast. It's not you. It's not. But how do you handle that? Do you need to handle that?
So yeah, it doesn't seem like it's an issue. I mean, if we want to go back and look at conversion, the fact is the price has never changed. The price has been 0.75 ETH.
And that's the only way to do it. You cannot adjust it.
I can't help in the fluctuation in the currency. I just can't. We decided to. Now I could have gone out and said, hey, it's right off the bat, it's all in fiat dollars, and we're going to do a separate membership system. But then if we did that in the Web 2 world, they wouldn't have any ownership. So we wanted to come right out and say, hey, this is your thing. You buy this is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. And then we're going to include them in the process in that. So yeah, I'm under the assumption that Brian and other people would have rather spent $1,500 than $3,000.
He's happy.
But but again, we have a number. Brian knows this. We have a number of NET holders. I think 3 that have 2 each that have bought one for their significant others, or in one case, their son. So there's another opportunity right now is a great opportunity to get another one, if you will, and you could bring your family and your friends and your colleagues along, and we'll see where that goes.
What about quantity? What if you're giving advice to people now who want to, whether they're event producers, whether they're clubs, Alpha Collective, what advice would you give in terms of how to implement an NET now that you are the NET pioneer? And by the way, Coachella just did it as well. They did their version of an NET. It's going to stick. It's absolutely going to stick.
I probably, if you, depending on the size of your audience and what your anticipation is for the event, I'm not anticipating a VCon size, Coachella size event. If that's the case, you're going to want to have a certain percentage of those be VIP possibilities. So maybe you would have 1,000, and in Gary's case, he has 10,000 that have their but there's no VIP experience with that. That's where he has the rarity and the different levels. I think 100 for us. I mean, if I made the decision, maybe you and Joseph, you and I would talk and say, let's do 200 at 0.25 or 0.5. But I think the 100 at this level of investment, especially somebody like a Brian or a Mark or a Jim or a Sarah that bought without even knowing what the product is, that gives me, as the event operator, as the project owner, the opportunity to add some frills to this, to add some free drinks, to add a VIP experience. And I'll never regret doing that. This is the greatest focus group that's ever been created for me. I even if it was zero money coming in from this, it would be a value for me because of the information that I'm getting from this community and the fact that they're marketing this. I'm under the assumption that they'll bring 3, 4, 5, 10 people each to the event next year because they're all talking it up like crazy. So that's amazing to me. So
yeah, I mean, I think while we're, and another, in a way, you are helping me. I have to thank you because you've actually helped me pioneer my very first alpha share and think about what the format and the formula is, besides what I liked about it, besides the lessons learned, besides what I would do differently. You've just created another benefit and use case, which is the greatest focus group ever. So I'll in the same spirit add something more to it because we're brainstorming now. Here's another thing as well, which is in the spirit of referrals and affiliate marketing, where people use a certain code and get 10% off, your NET holders might get 11% or might get a benefit. The people that they refer get a little bit extra, and they get something extra too, because they are now de facto VIPs.
It's a great thought. I've actually on the board here, as I have my notes in front of me, is the idea, and I haven't run it by the group yet, but we were going to do some kind of a special affiliate program just for VIP holders, that they would get a large percentage of whoever that they brought into the event, just like you would do a normal affiliate program. I don't know if that's something we should do, but again, we're brainstorming. That might be an opportunity where you have VIP. If you're going to really sell this, then great. Let's drive additional revenue. Or maybe if you get a certain number, there's an additional NFT that comes your way, airdrop. We got a lot of options with Tiltcoin that we could do our social token. As you have your own wonderful coin. So those are the things that I'm thinking of. And that's where this is what I really learned in this whole process. I thought if you did an NFT project, it pretty much was what it was, right? You put out the smart contract and you're done and you can't do anything else. But what I really learned in this whole process is you could change it as you go. I mean, the smart contract is a smart contract, but you can add benefits ongoing if you wish to. And that's where I'm just like, hey, what works? What would you like to see? What do you don't like to see? What do you want different? And then we'll continue to integrate this, and these will be 100 of our best customers, hopefully forever. But it's probably more than just a customer relationship, because they feel like, and they should feel like, this is their event too. That's what I want them to feel. I want them to go to CEX and say, hey, welcome to my event, because they have a little piece there.
It's such a great point as well, which is we forget that we have this thing called humanity, and we can just add stuff. We don't have to be like, how do we code it into the smart contract? No, you just use your words, as we say to our kids. Use your words. So I love that. And I was thinking, the other thing that I would just add as we kind of wind down is maybe it's the concept of an NET with an MBG, which would stand for a NET with a money back guarantee for a product that doesn't exist yet, for a product that is completely untried and tested. I wouldn't implement that for you because everybody knows who Joe Pulizzi is. Everybody knows that you know how to do events. Everybody knows that creators aren't going away. And as Brian was saying, I don't know if you joined yet, but Brian was like, the only risk was, will CX repeat itself? Will it be back? Small question mark in pencil. And then of course, the way that we benchmarked it is I asked him, I said, if you never ever attended another CEX, would you have got your money's worth? And he said, hell yeah. And I mean, like, that's jackpot. That's what you want.
It's amazing. And it's hard. I had a conversation with somebody this morning on a podcast about this, Joseph, and they were trying to say, well, you could have done this a million different ways. You could have just done a membership. You wasted all this time and you did the art and the rarity and whatever you put this time into it. And they thought it was a big waste of time. But I can't explain to them until they go through the process that this is different than just building a customer base or an audience base. And I didn't know that either. I did not know. I mean, literally, I have my Discord open right now. I've got DMs from 10 of my NET holders just talking to me about ideas and stuff and struggles that they're going through. And we're all here working with each other. That's why maybe for me, the 100 is a manageable number. And maybe Gary Vaynerchuk is superhuman and he can send out Twitter notes and emails to 1,000 people a day. I can't do that. This is very manageable. And this is our super group, super fans, whatever you want to call it. Now, what I don't know is where does this go? And so my only goal right now is I want to get these minted so that everyone who bought one, who put their trust in me and the event, that they can see something on the secondary market. Something, right? I just want to see that, okay, good. We're minted out. There's no more. And then they have to go to the secondary market. Then, is there a series 2? Is there a series 3? What does that look like? What should there be? Maybe we don't. So there's a lot of questions that we can answer, but I promised myself and I promised the NET holders that, look, I've only got one goal right now, and that's to create as much value for this as possible. So we need to mint these out. And then once we do that, then we'll see what additional value that we can deliver for them.
Well, you can actually join the NET party wagon. There are 51 minted. Now, you obviously have a whole bunch that you still need to process, but please let me know when you do mint out, and I want to watch the secondary as well. I really do think that you've pioneered an amazing new use case, and I hope people are paying attention. This is kind of, as I said, what Alpha Share is going to be about, where we actually sit down and we say, hey, listen, not everything works the way we thought it would, and oftentimes we end up in a better place, but we need to be more generous with our time and open up the kimono. Let people see, I'm going to mix metaphors, how the sausage is made. Probably shouldn't mix kimonos and sausages, but whatever, I just did. And realize, actually, maybe Joe, just talk to this. Like, can you see other use cases? Like, where does this head, if you are now taking a step back away from CX and saying, this is just me thinking, going, wait a second, any event, any membership-based purchase, any club, but why not think about airlines and restaurants? And this seems like a great loyalty play, in my opinion.
Well, I've done a presentation or two on this, as you know, and my belief is that we won't call it NFTs or Web3 or any of this slang terminology that we use, but I believe every rewards program that's worth its salt will have some basis in tokenization, whether that's social tokens. I think you'll see more NFTs happen. Starbucks just announced that they're tokenizing their rewards program. I thought that was going to happen a long time ago. It happened now. They're going to do their Genesis mint later in the year. So that's the first big company that we're seeing really do that with their rewards program. But I think it has to be. I just had airline rewards that when expired. What? That should not happen. Are those my rewards? No, I learned that they weren't my rewards. It's their rewards. And they let me know when I can get them, use them, whatever. But what if those were tokenized and then I could sell them on the secondary market? I could trade them in for any kind of other value. I think that's what you're going to see, where I can take that rewards program off of the platform of Starbucks and put it somewhere else. We're going to see this in the next 5 years. It's going to be crazy. We just have to remember we're so early days right now.
Right. And I will leave people today with a thought, which is you need to put the never ending into everything that you do, whether it's never ending loyalty, never ending service, never ending tickets, never ending rewards. They should never expire. The only time they should expire is when you do. And even so, you should be able to give them to somebody else. Joe, you are now 2 appearances. When's the next book coming out?
Actually, Brian Piper and I are co-authoring Epic Content Marketing. So I wrote that in 2013. We're doing a new edition. We're adding a lot of Web3 components. Lots happened in the last 8 years in the content marketing and content.
It might be appearance.
That'll be
appearance number 4.
January. Yes, absolutely. That'll be January, and I'd love to be back on, of course.
You certainly will, and I look forward to seeing you at the next CX. This is kind of like a pseudo, beta version 0.0 test of AlphaShare. I'm not sure if we still end with Chuck Norris, but if Chuck Norris was talking about Pulizzi, he would say,
You are Chuck Norris approved.
and I'll be back next week. Joe, thanks for being my very first AlphaShare.
Oh, anytime, my friend. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.